Dallas.
Mhm.
That was the year Dirk won MVP.
Work that we did on the floor and a brotherhood. You know, Kyrie became like a little brother to me, and just to help him mature into a championship caliber player, man.
Yo, what's Kenny the Jet? Shout out to Hooper's Voice, yo. What up, what up, what up, what up?
About the Spurs culture is the people that they had is what made up the culture, and that's a combination.
Terry Rozier, man. Here checking in. I gotta play. I need to follow Hooper's Voice.
I'm saying basketball. I got what? No way, man. It's a girls' school, man. I'm not playing basketball.
So I want to know what you guys think. Is it better for a kid at 18 to stay here and develop and play in the BBL, or take off elsewhere?
What are you trying to say, though?
I'll chime in because I've been fortunate.
Carry on.
I've been fortunate enough. I signed in Spain at 17 before I went to the States. Not a lot of people know that. So I signed in Malaga for 3 years, and
You got a football contract, isn't it?
yeah, it was nice too. But
The contract.
the contract, it would have been nice for my age. I was 17. I would have been making about 50,000. So,
Peace.
but I turned it. I left after 3 weeks. I couldn't hack it. I wasn't ready for it. And the fact for me, it was so coming from Scotland and then going to training and a team who just they just won the Kodak Cup that year, which was like equivalent of Euro Cup. The practice was super intense. I didn't speak a lick of Spanish. So now I'm with this junior team and I'm in a locker room. No one speaks English and I'm just looking around and they're laughing and I'm just laughing just because they could have been saying anything, I just was uncomfortable in the sense that I was just thrown into like my own apartment. Don't get me wrong, the apartment was nice on the beach, but I was by myself at 17, just left home for the first time. And with no plan, like I was going to be a pro, and they were talking about, okay, we can do this, we can do that. I just wasn't ready. And I remember speaking. There was a guy called Donya Abrams who played at Boston College, and he had signed for like 1.2 million that year. And he was talking to me about going to the States, and he was like, "You can always come back to this, right?" And this is my thing with anything. See, if you own your decision, so if you say this is what I want to do, you usually, as an athlete, you usually kind of put your mind to that and you make it work, right? I could say, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? If I'd stayed in the BBL, like it's about owning your decision. Like anything could have happened. Like for example, one of the junior kids when I was there in Spain, he was paralyzed from the waist down, right? So never hoop again, right? So then, would you say would that be a good decision if that happened? Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of working out what's right for you. So for me, the whole education, I thought that there'd be some security in having a degree and this, that, and the next thing. That in my mind, that was right for me. Does that make sense? When from a basketball perspective, I could have played in Malaga. Like Fran Vasquez was on the team with me. He was drafted 14th in the draft. Fran Vasquez, he played at Malaga then, but he's never actually went to the NBA. But he's was drafted and he's just bounced around, Barcelona. I think he's now in Tenerife or something. But I know that I learned more in 3 weeks in Spain than I did my whole college career. But what I learned in my college career was I learned how to compete. Like, see, in America, they knew how to compete, strength and conditioning, everything. They were on it. You know what I mean? So I think that you can mix and match a lot. But I wholeheartedly believe that there has to be options for UK players to stay in the UK, because going overseas is not for everybody. Not everyone can cut it, and that's facts. So I'm saying that if you're following a basketball goal and your agenda is basketball and to play at the highest level, I still feel that going overseas to a good team in Europe or going over to the States, you have a better opportunity to completely excel. If you're comfortable and you're happy being at home and you want to be at home, you can still build. You probably have more opportunity to build off the court being at home than you do. You know what I mean? Like I look at like Drew Sullivan, even work more, do everything when I was at home than when I was playing in
Totally.
Spain. No one cared when I was in Spain. I
Trust
never,
me.
I couldn't run my own camps. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. So it's whenever you own your decision, you have to make it work for you, and that's what I'm saying. That there's no easy option that if I go here, everything's just going to be handed to me. You have to work no matter what you do, and just make it work for what you think's best for you. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. 100%.
That's real.
But I wish I stayed in Spain though.
All that to say that.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, that's funny.
What about you, Tay? What do you think?
I think it's a topic that's got different elements to it. I mean, it can go either way. What is the player that we're talking about? Is the player that we're talking about potentially going to play in the NBA? Is the player potentially looking to play in a high level Europe? Is the player potentially trying to just make it to be a pro player? Like, it's a lot of questions that you need to ask yourself as a player at that time, but you might not know the answers to. So there's a lot of factors that go into trying to make a decision that young. And I think yes, we do have a problem in the UK of a lot of people just going to the States, like they did say on that what was it, a podcast or whatever it is. Some guys are going to somewhere in Nebraska that's nowhere for nothing. So I think we do have a little bit of a problem with that, with kids just saying I'm going to the States, and they're going somewhere that might not even be highly recognized in the States for anything, for even basketball. So yeah. I think there is something that needs to be addressed there. But I also think in England and in the BBL, there needs to be more avenues for young players to get on the court and get that experience like they can do in a European team, in Spain and in France and in Italy. Like, these players need to be on the court. So there needs to be something put in place where an 18, 19, 20-year-old can get on the BBL court if he's good enough to play. Because even when I was coming up, and I was 19 playing in the BBL, the only way I got on the court was through two guys on the court on my team getting injured. So those two guys got injured, and then I was the next guy up. That was it.
Capitals run.
Huh?
Your Capitals run?
No, I'm talking about my first season at Guildford Heat. My first season at Guildford Heat, the only way I got on the court was through Mike getting injured and the American getting injured. And that's how I got on. And I got on and I held my own. And it instilled that kind of energy in my coach that, oh, okay, he can handle this kind of level of play. And then I just ran with it. So I think there needs to be some sort of, I heard them talking about signing kids to contracts and stuff like that. If that's feasible, then it should. I can't see why it's not being done.
And this is where I disagree, because, like I said, even when I was in Spain, they have essentially two junior players who will be on the senior roster, but realistically, all they do is train with that team. You maybe get 1 or 2 minutes, but they have a strong either second team or a development league that they can play in. And that's what I said. Like, I look at how disjointed the UK is. Like, I even look at the NBL, right? I see the Barkin and stuff will compete in NBL, and they do okay, but there's some good competition there. I think you could be a part of like a London Lions, be playing on like a Barkin, team. It's all kind of joined together. So now you've got a couple of players who they're still training with you every single day, but they've still got their outlet at their level that they can play, and they're continuous getting trained individually, worked out and stuff, getting stronger, getting better, that they can actually break through into the first team as well. And that's where I feel right now that I look at the ABL and I look at the Leicester and I look at the situations with the academies. I just don't think they're completely unified at this moment in time. There's not a concrete plan of how does this pathway look, and that's not just for playing; that's also for coaching. Like I look
that's
at
that's across the board.
Across the board, you know what I mean? And I just think it's tough as a player because it's so fragmented that to be a Darius and get to be playing at 18, that's that doesn't happen. Like, it's very, very rare for it to actually happen and to stick with the course. You've been fortunate enough. Newcastle's been a great setup for that. But a lot of clubs in the BBL, they don't care about development or this or that. They just fielding a team, making money, making it competitive. And it's, for some, it's not even about winning. It's just about fielding a team and being there. You know what I mean? So my thing is that's not sustainable, because every year you're then thinking, okay, we got lucky this year. Surrey is a perfect example. You got a great point guard in 1 year. You're making a lot of momentum. Then next year you're going to lose those players, the turnover. You just don't know what you're going to get next. And then you're building. There's no infrastructure in place to kind of say, look, we can bring in some young players. 2 guys get injured in your team, you're not playing 5-on-5 at practice. You're chilling for a week. You know what I mean? Because there's no junior players. So I just feel that there needs to be something that kind of joins together and makes sure that there's actually a pathway for younger players to kind of go for that. But at the same time, things are earned. You can't just say, okay, I'm 19, I should be playing. That doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You have to earn that. And that would be like playing in the NBL or a under 23 league or whatever it may be, just to kind of make sure that you're getting there, you know? And that's my pitch for British basketball.
There's a big disparity, and that's kind of basically what it is. When you think about it, like all these other leagues, any guys, obviously the majority of these guys have played overseas, like, or when you're talking about academies and stuff, like, you got to remember you're getting Americans and imports playing not only the top league, but the Division 2, the Division 3, the Division 4s. And these are guys that have played at a high level in the States that are still getting paid to play. Obviously, it might not be the top league, but they're talented players. Like, we don't have that here. Like, we don't have NBL 1, NBL 2, NBL 3 having imports or having Americans or whatever it may be at a level where they're going to compete night in and night out. And I think that's where the problem is, because when you're not the Dariuses or the Jamels or the Teos or whatever who have been able to come in from teenage years and play in the BBL straight away, you just get lost in the mix. And then it's like, all right, well, I'm not playing at this level. Shall I just play at the NBL? And then you never really get a shot to get back up to the BBL. And it's tough. And I think Basketball England and the BBL need to have them type of conversations in, like you said, like in solidarity to make it one type of formality. So there's different tiers and different levels. And obviously that goes back with a whole bunch of other stuff, talking about money and being able to field bring in higher talented level of players even at the lower leagues.
Need that Royals money in the league. That's what they need.
The league won't be running in 2 years and it's over with.
You got Lions money. That Lions money.
That Champions League money. That's
Lions money.
That right, Justin.
That ASOS deal is nice.
You want your boy Vince.
I'm not involved, lad. I'm not involved.